Hello, welcome back to Facing the Waves. I am about 40 minutes into my walk. I'm probably going to turn the camera around because I do want to pay a little bit more attention of where I'm walking. But I'm just walking around in the field, and I've been trying to do this pretty often. I actually used to do this a lot in our property in Florida too. Just getting out there, listening to some positive music, walking in nature. It just does wonders, and it really calms you down. It lets you focus on God a little bit closer because you're not distracted inside the house, and just being outside is good for the soul. But I wanted to share a dream with you that I had last night. So let me turn the camera around first. So let's just kind of walk and talk. I do apologize if the video is shaky, but this is more of a listening video anyway. So I had a dream last night, and it surprised me so much because I have not really had an encounter or a dream or any type of experience with my grandmother, my mom's mom, who, as I shared with you not too long ago, I think I shared it with you, I'm not sure, but she passed away when we first moved to Florida. And she was one of the main reasons that my family wanted to move to Florida from New Jersey so we could spend her last years with her. But unfortunately, her health took a turn for the worse. So shortly after we moved here, she passed away due to health complications. And I've had a relationship with her. It wasn't super close because we had spent a little bit apart when she initially moved to Florida with another family member. So then when we moved to Florida and kind of got reunited, we did kind of have a close bond once again. We would spend time with her, we would talk with her, and then as she got sicker and sicker, we actually took care of her for a little bit. She never lived in our household, but she lived with family, so we were always visiting. She was basically the glue to that side of the family, as are many elders that end up passing away, and it seems like the family just drifts apart. But so she was kind of like the glue to that side of our family, and the main reason that our family was really close and really together, and we enjoyed the last few months that we got to spend with her. But she's always been a very faithful person, and I didn't talk about God too much with her, but I remember once, and hopefully it's not too windy, but I remember once at church after she had passed away, and I went up for prayer. This was back in Florida, and I remember the pastor saying something to me that had to do with my grandmother, and he asked me if I remembered what my grandmother told me before she passed away. And I could not remember for the life of me. And it really didn't even hit me until years and years later. I randomly thought about what she had told me before she passed away. And the very specific words that she told me was to always read the Bible, to continue reading the Bible. So for some reason that day at church, I could not remember what the heck the pastor was talking about, but it did eventually catch up to me and hit me. And I really did not start reading the Bible consecutively or as a routine until just now, recently, here in Maine. So, but now I understand, I understand what she meant by read the Bible, because the Bible is so inspirational. It has so many stories. It is the living word of God. It changes every time you open up that Bible and read it. Every word, you can read the same verse time and time again, and it will mean something different depending on when you're reading it and what you're going through at that time. And it brings you so much closer to God. Reading the Bible, studying the words, it makes messages that you need to share with people just kind of stand out and pop out on your head to share with people. So that was the last thing that she said to me was, remember to read the Bible. And I am just now, I am in my 30s, and literally just now I've attempted to read the Bible. I've attempted to read the Bible in a year and just never really soaked it in until now. Recently I'm able to understand it, and if there is ever anything that I don't understand, I am able to research it and seeing like other people's opinions, and then I end up understanding it. And also while we're at church and they are quoting scriptures, I am able to understand it and also understand it better, listening to whatever the preacher or pastor has to say about the meaning of that verse. But unrelated to that, that was pretty much, I guess, the last thing that I really remembered about my grandmother. She passed away. It's been years and years. She passed away, I think, in 2007. We're now in 2024, about to hit 2025. So I really have not, like, I've thought about my grandmother, but I haven't thought about her too much, and like memories of her have not popped up in my head recently or anything until last night when I had a dream of her. And it was a very odd dream. It started off weird. I remember I walked into a room and it was not this house that we're at. I don't know where it was, but my two cousins were there, and they live in Florida right now, so maybe it was in Florida. Maybe the dream was taking us back to the house where my grandmother passed away with the family member. So my two cousins were there, and I just remember walking up to them and I was like really sad, like I had just got done bawling my eyes out and crying. I gave each one of them a really long and meaningful hug, and then I went to the couch where my grandmother was sitting. And when I woke up from this dream, a part of me was like, was that my grandmother? Because I don't know, I wanted to like question myself, like, was that really my grandmother? But what I specifically remember about this dream is that the grandmother in the couch that I went to go sit with, she was wearing oxygen on her face, and that's kind of how it was her last months or years of life. I'm not sure. She had to be on oxygen 24/7. So besides the oxygen, it definitely looked like her. The shape of her face, her facial features, her hair, everything seemed normal about her. Like, that's how she looked, especially towards her last days. So she was sitting on the couch, and I crawled up to the couch with her and kind of sat really near her and kind of just like curled up beside her. And she was talking to me. She was telling me how proud she was of me, telling me all these good things that I never actually heard her say in real life. So it was kind of a new experience. It was kind of weird, but it was also touching at the same time. So she was saying all of these things, and I wonder now if that was actually her sending me a message for the times that we're in right now, telling me that she is proud of everything I'm doing and proud of me finally opening up the Bible and studying it and sharing the words that I feel led to share with others. So that's kind of what I got from it. It was like a heartwarming, touching feeling, and that I got from the dream, because she was telling me all of these things. But then she said, like, after she was telling me all these things, she did say that she felt like it was her time to go. And in my dream I was like, no, like a really long and drawn out no. And I was super sad to hear her say that. And she was like, yes. And I'm not sure, she was saying other stuff, and I specifically remember like the oxygen tank, you know how it makes noise, and it almost sounded like she had like fluid buildup around her lungs. So I'm not sure exactly of what causes she passed away from, but like she was trying to say more words in between the oxygen tank going and the fluid buildup. So she kept trying to talk, and I was trying to listen, and I almost couldn't recognize what she was saying, but at the same time I knew what she was saying. I understood what she was trying to say. And then she got up, and it was like as if she was going to the bathroom. She had gotten up from the couch and just kind of walked away. And then I started crying, and I don't know in my dream if that is when, like in my dream, it symbolized her dying, because she walked out the room as if she was going to the bathroom, but she never did come back, and I was left on the couch just sadly crying to myself. There was nobody else there. I feel like maybe somebody else was sitting on the couch, maybe my aunt or something. I feel like I remember, but I don't remember seeing specific faces or anything. And I just know that I was crying, and my grandma had got up from the couch and walked away, and she did not come back. And that is the moment I woke up. And at that moment when I woke up, I was like, was that my grandma in my dream? Because I don't know. It could have also resembled my mother. My mother has very similar features to my grandmother, but I think the fact that the person in the dream was wearing the oxygen and needed the help to breathe from the oxygen tank, I think that definitely had to do with my grandma, because my mom has never smoked and my grandma smoked a lot to the point where she had lung problems, which is why she needed the oxygen. But my mom has never had problems with breathing or problems with her lungs, and I don't think that she will ever in the future need oxygen. But when I first woke up, I was like, wait, was this about my mom or was this about my grandma? But remembering that about the oxygen, like that specific detail, I was like, okay, this is about my grandma. And I feel like my grandma came through to my dream to tell me how proud I was, or it could have been God himself just showing me that little scenery play out to tell me that he is proud of me. But either way, I felt heartwarmed and I felt happy to hear those words, although the dream was a little bit sad and I was crying in my dream. I did not wake up crying, but it just felt so realistic. But it was really nice seeing her and seeing her communicate with me, because from what I remember when she passed away, I was in freshman year in high school, and like I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know what was actually wrong with her, how long she would have to live. And I just remember every day after school my parents would pick me up, and or I think on days that I would stay after school for programs and stuff, they would pick me up, because otherwise I would ride the bus. But I remember towards the end, every day my parents would pick me up from school, I would ask them about an update of my grandmother to see if she was getting any better, until unfortunately the day came where they told me that she had passed away. So like on her last days, she was pretty much bedridden, and that's the point where hospice care starts giving you medications to take any pain away and to make the passing as comfortable as possible for the patient. So that's kind of like in the state that she was in towards the end, kind of like a coma, just so that she could be comfortable and not suffer on her last days. And I remember pretty close to her time of passing, my dad had told me to go up to her and just tell her what I wanted to tell her before the time came. So I remember I didn't really know what to say, but I did hug her and I told her that I loved her in Spanish, because she only speaks Spanish. So I told her I loved her, and at that point she wasn't really moving. Like I said, she was like in a coma-like state induced by the medicine, but she somehow lifted her arm, like her arm jerked up, which of course when somebody is dying, that is normal too, for them to make random movements with their body or random noises. But as soon as I whispered that in her ear and I started crying, she moved her hand up almost as if she was trying to communicate with me. So that was a pretty cool experience. But I just feel like I never had the closure. I never got to, like, she never got to say anything to me towards the end. She never got to have a conversation with me before she quickly declined and passed away. So I wonder, or I deeply know that maybe this was her coming back and just telling me how proud she was, and just basically letting me know that she is okay and she is watching everything that I'm doing now. Or it was also God's way of picking the person in my life that he knows that I very much deeply love. She never did anything to harm me or to hurt my feelings. I only have nothing but good memories of her and of our time with her in New Jersey and our short time with her in Florida. So maybe it was his way of using her as a vessel to send me that message that he is extremely proud of me and happy of what I am doing in my life now. Why did it take so long for me to finally buckle down and surrender my life to God, study the Bible, open up that Bible and read it to understand it, go to church routinely? I don't know why it took us so long to get all that started, but I am glad I am at the point that I am now, and I am glad for that message that was sent to me through a dream. And like, that dream surprised me so much because I really, like I said, have not had an encounter or even really thought about that grandmother ever since that. So after she passed away, I have lost several other grandparents, from my dad's side and then from my husband's side as well. So we've had a lot of like elderly losses in our family, but it was very special to have that experience again and be able to see her again. Even though it was a little bit sad, it still left me happy and confident that there was a message from her or from God himself, that they look down at me and just feel proud. So it's an amazing feeling, and just wanted to share that with you because specifically the reading the Bible part, that really hit me when I realized that is what my grandmother really last talked to me about, was reading the Bible. Of course, I didn't understand it back then. I did not have a close relationship with God back then, but now I get it and I understand it, and I could see the difference that reading the Bible has in my life and in my family's life as well. Reading to understand, really soaking it in, and if something seems confusing, just simply researching it or talking to somebody else about it and seeing other people's perspectives is just amazing, and it gives you a more deep and more true understanding of the Bible and what the Bible is trying to say in whatever verse or chapter you're on. So this whole dream and having that dream last night, even though it was very emotional, it just reminded me about what the pastor asked me during that prayer, and how I couldn't remember it back then, but I remembered it years later, and I remember it deeply right now. And I'm finally just now understanding it. Like, what, 15 plus years later, I am just now understanding it. So I think that the faster that you can just put down whatever distractions you have in your life and pick up that Bible and start reading it, the better. The faster you can start doing that, the better it's going to be, because you will be able to finally understand your calling, the calling that God has for you. You'll be able to understand it sooner and get started on working on it right away instead of delaying it any further. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video and enjoyed kind of seeing what my dream was about and what I got out of it. It was a message definitely directed to me and myself, but the memory of the reading the Bible part can definitely serve useful for anybody else watching this video. So just don't forget that. Don't forget to just pick up that Bible and read it to understand. You don't have to read it in consecutive order or anything. Just read whatever page or chapter God leads you to first, and then just go from there. I will see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching this one, and I hope you guys have a great week.